What's going on, CSBA, and welcome back. Ace and I, let me just start off by apologizing. We had scheduling conflict here the other week, and then we had Father's Day, on Sunday when we typically do our recordings. So, apologies. We will have an abbreviated episode here coming for you from week 3, getting you ready for week 4, which at the time of this recording and the time it's published, week 4 will already be underway. But fear not, we have plenty of content here throughout the CSBA with CSBA Primetime. Our boys over there at CSBA Primetime killing it. So we have a ton of content for you just in case one of our shows is not available. Our family of shows is always going to be around, at least having one, if not both. But again, we're going to cover week 3 here. Again, it's your boy Lion United here with Ace. Ace, how we doing? I know it's been a little bit since we've been back in the booth, but how you feeling? I know Oklahoma State's been busy, but anything that's been on your mind here over the last week or so that you wanted to get off your chest before we get into it?
No, sorry we missed last week. Once again, sorry for that, CSBA, but we're back. Um, what a week 3 we had in the CSBA, and I want to shout out the other podcast, Primetime. They're killing over there. I actually listened to the whole podcast on the way home yesterday. They do a great job, and glad to see all the good content in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize if you hear my dogs in the background. I am upstairs, not sure how clear they're coming through, but let's get right into it here as we can jump in to our poll, our admin poll that we typically cover. We know we have a bunch of polls from the CSBA, but we typically here in this podcast cover the admin poll. So let's get right into it here with our top 10. We have going into week 3, North Carolina at 2-0 at number 1, holding down the spot. And then Hawaii, Oklahoma State, LSU, Illinois, and Kentucky is your top 6, with Houston taking over to number 6. Kentucky is number 7, and Arizona rounding it out at number 10. Just looking briefly here, we had a major rise for Arizona, jumping 10 spots, and one faller, which is Kentucky, down 4 spots, and Illinois jumping 10 spots to 2-0. But we'll cover that matchup there with Oklahoma State. But any surprises here, Ace, for our top 10?
Yeah, a couple surprises for me. Like Kentucky, I thought was too low. On my list, I at least had them 4. Like they played a good UNC team and lost. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like they should go down 4 spots by losing to the number 1 team. But I think uh Illinois a little high for me. I thought Tennessee a little high, Kansas a little high too. Like, and see on the opposite side, like I thought Wichita State should be a little higher than 13 on the on the other side, but there's a lot of question marks in the top 10, and I think once we get to the later weeks, it'll work itself out.
Yeah, we're still early here. Still, the polls will get the kinks worked out, once we get into conference play. I don't think you'll see many teams jump 10 spots
No.
in further weeks rankings here. Because, like I said, we're still pretty early on in the rankings. But you kind of jumped into it a little bit there with our 11 through 20. We had Kansas State coming in at number 11, with Texas A&M, followed by Wichita State and Oregon State, and then Michigan, Mississippi State, Florida, an 0-2 Texas, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech rounding out your top 20. A couple of teams jumping big time here. You kind of talked about Wichita State a little bit. They jumped from not even being ranked in the top 20 to number 13, 12 spots. And Texas, speaking of 12 spots, they dropped 12 spots all the way down to number 18. But we'll cover it here in a little bit. They had a big time victory over another top 20 team here that we'll cover. But any crazy happenings here? I know Wichita State, for me, I do like them being higher. I was kind of surprised they weren't even in the top 20 in last week's rankings. But anything crazy here that jumps out to you?
Um, Syracuse. I know they had a great win against Memphis, week 1, but week 2, they did not look the greatest,
No.
and then we're gonna see this week and week 3, they had another loss, so I definitely think, Syracuse moving out of the top 20 for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I hate to put a little hate on C Web's regime over there, but I think Syracuse is getting a little too much love for that win over Memphis. I am a big fan of Memphis, don't get me wrong, but I think the true colors will show as we go throughout the weeks here. But that'll
One
do it
other
for our
thing,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
Florida. I watch out for Florida. They're a dark horse team. They've been scoring close to 100 points a game. So if if they can score 100 points a game, they're going to win a lot of games this season.
Oh yeah, listen, man, their offense is one to look out for as we'll show here this week. They put up near 100 as well. But I think the defense might come back to haunt them a little bit because they do give up a good amount of points here. But speaking of Florida, let's just get right into it. With our first night of games here, we had a lot of ranked action. We had number 15 Michigan going to number 18 Texas. We had number 6 Houston going to Sparty to face off against Michigan State. And then, as you said, we had number 17 Florida going up against number 16 Mississippi State on the road. Let's just get right into it, Ace. Texas, big time victory number one over Big Blue, 83 to 76. What are your thoughts on that one? We'll just start there.
Yeah, a huge game for Texas as they get their first win of the season. I knew Texas was going to turn around here. That's a huge win for them. But the biggest thing for me was the bench points, 36 points off the bench for Texas. Michigan, they got to figure out some points off the bench, only 20 for them. So
Mm,
they got to figure out maybe some rotations issues, or I don't know, just get in the gym, practice more, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I feel like we talk about it every week, but the depth is reigning king here when it comes to determining who's going to win and who's going to lose a ball game. Just quickly covering the box score, you got nowhere. Team high 18 points, shooting 8 for 11, 2 for 2 from 3. So expect nothing less out of nowhere. And then on Michigan's side, you got Dylan Dominga, game high 20 points, 1 rebound, and 5 assists. So I'm not too worried about Michigan. Going to Texas is no easy feat. I know Texas was 0-2, but they are much better than their record represents. So I expect Michigan to hang in there, but Texas is I think they're going to start racking in those wins and start climbing those rankings. But one surprise of the night, which I was not expecting at all, was Michigan State taking down number 6 Houston, who I'm very high on in Leon Sandcastle, by 2, 82 to 80. Ace, are you as surprised as I was with the Cougars going into Michigan State and losing?
Yeah, I was a little shocked, but once again, I didn't think I thought Michigan State would turn it around. They're still a good team here in the CSBA, but look at the box score here. 17 15 of 17 from the free throw line, and we
Wow.
talk about free throws, one of the most important things in the game of basketball, and they shot 88% from free throws, and we see it's a 2-point win by them. So
Yep.
knock knocking down your free throws, so important.
Yep, I know, and Houston actually did shoot 100%, 7 for 7, but as you said, Michigan State shot 17, so they got to the line 10 more times, or got to the line and got 10 more shots up. So, yeah, that's definitely a huge factor when it comes down to who wins that ball game. Ray Gunn, the leader of Michigan State, coming up big time with 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. So, anytime he puts up big numbers, I expect Michigan State to be right in that ball game. I mentioned it briefly. We may mention him again later on in the show with our players of the week. But Leon Sandcastle with a double double, 20 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. That is definitely someone that you need to control if you plan on beating Houston. And I know Ace, your Oklahoma State Cowboys have a big matchup coming up with them, so I'm sure Leon's going to be someone to look out for. But our final game of that evening was a top 20 matchup with number 17 Florida and number 16 Mississippi State. And the red hot offense of Florida leads them to a victory 98 to 87. Ace, are you how are you feeling about Florida and Mississippi State? I know they're both ranked right near each other, but I expect both these teams to be right there when it's all said and done at the end of the year.
For sure. Both teams are top 20, possibly top 15 in the CSBA. But huge shout out to Isaiah Alexander, one of the top scorers in the CSBA. I think he's number two
Every
uh,
week.
point, points per game this season. 21 points for him last game. But the Florida squad, 9 for 15, shooting threes,
Wow.
60%. That's the story. They
Yep.
they killed it from the 3-point line.
Yeah, Mississippi State 1 for 7. That's definitely not going to cut it. And Florida, we talked about their hot offense. Shot 63% as a team from the
Mm.
field goal stripe. So that's just absolutely insane. And I talked about Ray Gunn from Michigan State, but Isaiah Alexander, anytime you see him on the court, you need to shut him down if you want to stand a chance against Florida. And I expect Isaiah Alexander to just keep pouring it on as we continue on here into week 4. But we'll go on to the next night's games here. We had another slate of matchups with 3 matchups. We had number 14 Oregon State traveling to Memphis. We kind of going to touch on that a little bit, and then we had a heck of a game. I'm not sure if anyone besides a few people caught this one, but Duke and Louisville was a heck of a game, Ace. And then we had our marquee matchup of LSU number 4 going to Kentucky number 7. But we're going to start off here with Memphis taking down the top 20 team in Oregon State. But I don't know if I'm necessarily too shocked by that, Ace. I like Memphis a lot, and I think Oregon State might be a little overrated.
Yeah, as you can see, the bigs for Memphis just completely dominated. 43 total rebounds to only 30 for
Jeez.
Oklahoma State, and points in the paint 54 to only 32. So, Oklahoma State. I said Oregon State. Wow, too many states. But
I know.
Oregon State, man, they might have the guard play with Caden Connor and Juice Williams, but they got to figure out their big situation if they want to make a huge run here in the CSBA this season.
Yeah, I mean, you had AJ Zachary from Memphis with a big time 17.6 rebound, 5 blocks, shooting 8 for 9, and also stepped out and shot a 3 going 1 for 1. And then my boy Jalen Tyree, always expect big things out of him. He filled up the stat sheet with 12, 3, 4, and 2, and also contributed to the blocks of 1. You mentioned Caden Connor having a pretty dang good game at 13 points, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line, but I know this is Oregon State's first loss, if I'm remembering correctly, but I'm afraid that they might start seeing more losses pile up here. But nonetheless, big time victory for Memphis, and I expect them to continue the momentum moving forward here. But as I said earlier, I watched pretty much the whole Louisville Duke game, and I was very impressed by Louisville. I know they lost, but they held a lead in this game in Cameron Indoor, and I think that's a good step forward for them, Ace, here as we move forward in the season to carry some momentum.
Oh yeah, huge momentum boost for them as 10 freshmen, as we said on this squad.
Mhm.
The biggest thing was the turnovers.
Yeah.
11 turnovers for Louisville going to 12 Duke points. And that's the story. Like if they limit those turnovers come the half, hey, they probably win that game.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I know we're doing this a little late. They got down pretty big in the beginning of the game, if I remember correctly. So they had to come back from that. But like I said, I know Louisville lost, but I'm giving a lot of credit to them here, and I'm looking for them to really maybe to take that next step forward and get that victory next week. But we'll have to wait and see. And then quite arguably the biggest matchup of the week. We had the Tigers of LSU going to face off against Kentucky in Lexington as Kentucky comes away with a 93 to 85 victory. Once again, another great game. Kentucky somehow led by as much as 22 at one point. But Ace, did you expect anything less out of these two squads that are going to be right there at the top when it's all said and done?
Now, 2 top 5 teams duking it out. What a game. Like, the biggest thing I look at the box score, we talk about having a deep team. Kentucky, 43 points off the bench for only 24 for LSU. And Kentucky, a lot of people think, yeah, they're not the same team as last season, but hey, they're still a top 5 team in this league for
Yeah,
sure.
it doesn't matter. Kentucky had 6 players with 10 plus points, and even if
Mm,
you go below that, you got Golden chipping in with 7, 3, and 4. Seymour with 4, 4, 2 steals and a block. So everyone on this team is doing something, playing their role. Even Hayes at the bottom of the box score, 4 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. I mean,
mm.
you just got to pick your poison with this team because you can shut down one thing, but something else is gonna work for Kentucky. But as far as LSU, like I said, not a huge I mean, it's a big loss. You know, you want to beat Kentucky, but I don't take anything away from them. You know, you had White with a double double at 15, 13, and 5 blocks, so that's a heck of a performance there. But I expect LSU to be right there when it's all said and done. But I think Kentucky just is that good.
Yeah,
Um,
and LSU even led by 13 at one time,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it shows you that LSU can put up a good fight, but can they hold on for 4 quarters?
Yeah, that's you gotta put it all together for 4 quarters if you're gonna take a top team down, in the CSBA. But moving on, we had a slate of 4 games where we had number 1 UNC, taking on Creighton, which was a very close game if everyone was paying attention. Creighton had UNC on the ropes a little bit there, but we'll get into it. And then we had Auburn going to number 9 Tennessee. We had number 19 Syracuse at home against Providence, and then we had Aces Oklahoma State Cowboys number 3 going to number 5 Illinois in Champaign, Illinois. But let's start with the number 1 team in North Carolina. Ace, they at home especially, they were on the ropes there for a little bit. Creighton was hanging tough with them pretty much the majority of the game.
Yeah, I was watching a half, and I think Creighton had a lead going to half there, and,
Yeah.
uh, North Carolina after half, I don't know if the coach light a spark in them or what, but 2 things really light up my eyes. 12 turnovers for Creighton, leading to 22 North Carolina
That's
points,
crazy.
and only 1 turnover for UNC. That is amazing. And the bench points, I know we're beating a dead horse when we say this, but 50 points for their starters, 50 points for their bench, dead even. That is crazy.
Listen, I know we had what Kentucky was 6 players above 10. North Carolina said, "Hold my beer." They had 7,
Yeah,
7 players with 10 plus. And
almost 8.
almost 8, and everyone up and down the board, was contributing. We could talk about North Carolina for days, but I do wanna give a little shout out here to Creighton. Heck of a performance in Chapel Hill. You had Malcolm Streets with 23, 9, and 2. You had Holiday with a double-double at 10 and 10. Just unfortunately, Creighton is not as deep as UNC, which is what it came down to, but I give a lot of props to Creighton for going into Chapel Hill and going blow for blow there with North Carolina.
For sure.
But moving on, we have on paper an upset here, Ace, as Auburn went into Knoxville to take down number 9 Tennessee 96 to 86. If I remember correctly, you think Tennessee's a little bit overrated, so you're probably not as surprised as some may be here. But what do you think about Auburn going in and taking down the Volunteers?
Huge win for Auburn. I believe that's their first win of the season, so um, getting things on track there. But this might be the craziest. box score for one player I've ever seen in my life. Cease Miller, their point guard. This is a point guard. 23 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, 1 steal on 10 of 15 shooting. A point guard almost had a triple double. That that's crazy.
Listen, Cease Miller, I'm gonna spoiler alert here a little bit for later on in the show. He is my player of the week. I mean, he
Oh,
went
for
into
sure.
Knoxville, led Auburn to a massive victory. Again, depth, big time with Auburn as they had 5 players plus 10 point or over the 10 point mark. You know, Cease Miller, like you already alluded to, but Ducano 17, 5 and 2, Edwards 14, 3, 1 and 2. Just a super efficient night from Auburn. And not to leave Tennessee out here, Jack Boy Luca 23, 2 and 4 on 11 of 18 shooting. So a heck of a performance there. Uh, I would have liked to see a little bit more out of McFadden. He finished
Mhm.
with 9 points and 5 assists. Usually you see more than that out of McFadden. But those are just kind of the things that stood out. But I Auburn can take down anyone if Cease Miller plays like that every night. So I don't know what Cease Miller did before the game, but continue doing what you're doing before each game, and Auburn could be quickly rising the top 20.
Oh, for sure.
But moving on here, I know we kind of talked about Syracuse being a little overrated as well. Sorry, C Web, but Providence going in to Syracuse to get a 10-point victory, 94-84. Ace, what stands out to you here?
One of the craziest things, Syracuse, had 10 more offensive rebounds and my math, 12 more second chance points than Providence, and they still lost the game. That's probably the craziest stats. Usually, if you win the second chance points and the offensive rebounds, you're probably gonna win that game, but Petro Melanishin, what a game. 25 points for him. Outstanding.
Yeah, more depth. You have another squad that has 5 players, 10 plus points. Melanishin leading the way, as you said, 8 for 8, perfect from the free throw line, plus 36. So love to see that at a Melanishin. As far as Syracuse is concerned, they had Saladin Amos, who went right up to Melanishin and gave up or put up quite a fight there, finishing with 23 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist for his night. But Providence, I was very impressed by Providence. I know Syracuse, we talked about being a little overrated, but it's never easy getting a win in the CSBA, especially when you lose key factors like offensive rebounds and second chance points. But hey, a win's a win, and I'm sure Providence will not complain when it comes to going into Syracuse and getting that dub.
For
Um,
sure.
but game of the night, your boys, Oklahoma State, going into Illinois and taking care of business, 93-76. I'm gonna let you be as biased as you want. I know a lot of people were expecting this to be closer, and I think it was closer than the final score ends up being.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Oklahoma State was up 17 on the road at one point. Ace, are you happy with how your team performed against the Illini?
I mean, what a battle, like, Oklahoma State really didn't get going till the end of the 3rd. It was back and forth. I think Oklahoma State had a 5-point lead heading into 4th, and that's when we really put our foot down in the 4th. But biggest thing for me, 8 8 guys with 9 or more points.
Wow.
We we talk about having a deep team. The if you have 8 guys almost averaging 10, you're gonna win that game.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I mean, if I were to call one thing out, um, that Oklahoma State could work on is Rodney Smith did take a lot of shots. He shot 5
Mhm.
for 15, finishing with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. So would like to see Mr. Smith be a little bit more efficient there. but you had King James finishing with 14, 4, 7, and 1 steal, 2 for 4 from the three. So you love seeing that out of your point guard. You had Ace Wild with 9, 7, 6, and 2. So love to see that out of Ace Wild. On the Illinois side of things, not surprised. Britt Brownstone with a big game, 22 points on 6 to 12. And then you had a double double out of Jay Batty, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal. I know there are still some people not respecting Oklahoma State and their top 5 ranking. Ace, do you have anything to say to that before we move on to the next slate of games?
Nah, just gonna say let the league keep sleeping on us. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, we'll have to wait and see how Oklahoma State does here in week 4. But moving on now to the next slate of games, we had Arizona taking on UCLA, and we also had Virginia Tech at home against the Huskies of UConn, and your number 2 team, Hawaii, traveling to Ohio to try and get the dub. And that's your slate for the 19th of June. We'll start with Arizona. Ace Arizona putting a pounding on the Bruins, 90 to 66, biggest lead of 33 at one point. I really don't think there's a lot to say here.
No, and I feel bad for my boy Quan King, and I know he's working hard to figure out uh, how to make that team successful, and he's killing it doing color
Yeah,
broadcasting.
yeah.
One of my favorites in the booth, but biggest thing, points in the paint. 60 points for Arizona to only 28 for
I mean,
UCLA. Th 28 points. You gotta figure out how to score inside.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Wizard Strickland had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks. So absolutely dominant down there. Um, one positive I saw to UCLA was Alec Christian. I thought he had a good game with 13, 1 rebound, 2 assists on 4 of 6 shooting from the field, 4 of 4 from the free throw line. So I think that was very impressive. But I mean, Arizona State shot 62% from the field. So the defense has to be better if you're the Bruins. But like I said, not a whole lot to say here. I'm not surprised that Arizona got the win at home, but would like to see UCLA come back and show a little bit more fight and hopefully have a more competitive game here in their next matchup. But again, another game that was just you're looking at the
Mm.
score and it just was not close. Virginia Tech 83 to 58 over UConn. Talking about biggest leads, they also held a largest lead of 27. I mean, Ace again, this Virginia Tech team outshot them and the box score. I'm seeing pretty much everything highlighted besides blocks
Yeah.
uh, in favor of Virginia Tech here.
I mean, I think a lot of teams are sleeping on Virginia Tech this season. I'm I know UConn probably not the greatest team this season, but Virginia Tech's got some good players on their
Hmm.
side. But I gotta say, UConn, they gotta figure out their score. They had no one in double figures,
No,
and if you don't have at least, I mean, one go-to scorer, you gotta have multiple if you want to win that game, and they don't have one guy over 10 points.
no. I mean, looking at the box score too, they shot 2 of 13 from the three-point line, so that's not gonna work when you're trying to get a victory on the road. We'll cover quickly here. Virginia Tech, you got Dalen Sparks finishing with 15, 1, 1, and 2. You have Dimes with 14, 6, 2, 2, and 3 on a perfect night shooting of 7 of 7. So you'll love to see that. As far as UConn is concerned, you have Aaron Sonogo, who did not have a good night, shooting 3 of 11. But one positive I will say here is Valentine, almost a double double, finishing with 8 points and 9 rebounds and 2 blocks on 4 of 7 shooting. So if you're taking away anything positive from there, I would say it comes from Valentine. But yeah, Virginia Tech could be a sleeper here. I expect them to be competitive in pretty much all of their games. So we'll just have to wait and see what week 4 holds for both of those squads. And then the final game of this or of that evening is Hawaii going to Ohio and coming away with a 16-point victory, 87 to 71. Ace, is it Ohio that is just facing good teams, or are they not as good as people thought coming into this year?
I'm really scratching my head on this one. I really thought Ohio at least a top 10 team this in the CSBA this season, and I don't know if it's tendencies or
Are they 0
arts
and
or what.
3?
I think they are,
I don't think they have a win yet.
but they only lost by 16 points, and that's being generous because look at this box score. It probably should have been a lot more. 62 points in the paint for Hawaii to only 26 for Ohio. Like
Man.
and Ohio's got some good bigs. Like I don't understand, but I think Ohio can turn it around here. And Hawaii, yes, they're probably top one, top two team in the CSBA, but you got to do better than that.
Yeah, I mean, you're at home and you shoot 4 of 17 from the three-point line. That's simply not gonna cut it. I know they had 3 people above 10 points with King Flint, um, Coco, and Kramer, 13, 14, and 14. So you got your typical outings out of them, but there's just the three-point shooting has to improve. For Hawaii, you got D Money with 13, you got O'Houlihan with 12, Gustafson with 11. So all the typical names that you're expecting out of Hawaii showed up on the road, which is big time. But Ace, I don't know if something was in the water that night's games, but every single game was just a massacre, and you hate to see that. You might not mind one blowout on a given night, but it's never good when every single game on the same night is a blowout. So I hope to not see that too often this year.
Yeah, that's a long night, especially if you're doing play by play. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
But let's go on here to June 20th, as this is going to be, I believe, our last slate of games here for week 3. But you had Texas A&M against Vanderbilt, with the Aggies at home. You had Gonzaga going on the road to face Wichita State. And you also had my old squad, the Kansas Jayhawks, traveling to Kansas State for a little rivalry game there. So let's just start from the beginning. We'll start with A&M. I mean, we might
They
as well
took
just
him to the
continue with
woodshed.
we might as well just continue with the massacres here. 101 to 60, biggest lead of 44. Uh, I mean, we can make this quick, Ace. Vanderbilt just looked absolutely outmanned.
Yeah, Texas A&M. They're a sneaky good squad this season. I think probably top 15 team in the CSBA, but everything 3-point percentage, 60% shooting threes, points in the paint, 60 to 32. I mean, just took him to the woodshed.
Yeah, you had Richard Powers leading the way for the Aggies with 19 points and 8 rebounds on 8 of I mean, I'm just gonna go through these real quick and talk about efficient. Powers was 8 of 10. You have Demo with 17 points on 7-11 shooting. You have a double-double at a time with 16 points and 10 rebounds on 7 of 10 shooting. You have Edwards with 15 points on 6 of 10 shooting. Castillo, 12 points on 5 of 6 shooting. I mean, Ace, you put up 101 points. This team could have beaten any team in the CSBA at that rate.
For sure. They were just on fire
Yeah,
that night.
I mean, that night, they would have beaten anyone. So, yes, it was a loss for Vanderbilt, and yes, it was ugly. Might have just caught the Aggies on a good night. Obviously, they could not be stopped, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a rough season here for Vanderbilt, but we can move on nonetheless to the Bulldogs against the Shockers. Wichita State coming away with an 11-point victory at home with a big time win over the Zags, 87 to 76. Ace, this was at least a much closer game than the past 4 or 5 that we've covered, even though Wichita State at one point held a largest lead of 25.
Yeah, I called this game in first quarter. I think Gonzaga only scored 9 points.
Wow.
That was the 25-point lead. And then Gonzaga slowly started to come back.
Yep.
And they actually in the fourth quarter cut it within 7, but Wichita State put it away at the end. But Man, Wichita State 3-0 this season.
Mort's got something going on over there.
Yeah, they got something cooking over there. I still don't, as I I hate to call out the other podcast. Someone thinks they're a top 5 team, which
Ugh.
I don't know agree with that, but top 10, yes, I agree.
Listen, I love my boy Mort. I love everything that he's doing over there at Wichita State. I think they are extremely competitive every single year. Now, are you gonna potentially put them, over North Carolina, over Hawaii, over Oklahoma State, those types of teams? No, I don't think they've proven that quite yet. But I will say Wichita State will have their time to prove it, and I mean, you can't fault them for the schedule that they have. They're winning games, and I give them all the credit. You have a pretty um, deep team here in Hartman, Elner, and Mort, finishing with 15, 15, and 13. And you have two other guys finishing with 10 plus, and Berard and Nitty. So an extremely efficient, effective team from Wichita State. Now Gonzaga has their own couple players here, in Keith Times, who finished with 19 points, and Newell with 14 on 7 of 8 shooting. So a very efficient, effective night out of Newell. But I'm gonna give all the credit here to Wichita State, and I expect them to continue the momentum going into week 4. But last but not least for this slate here, we have the rivalry between Kansas and Kansas State, and our boy Bartlett, who was on the podcast not that long ago, coming away with a 5-point victory, 76-71, by far the best game of the night, Ace.
Yeah, it was, but it was very sloppy game.
Yes.
Um, I also call that game, and man, the box score is so weird because if you look at really close, everything is leading towards the Kansas side.
Yeah.
Rebounds,
Yep.
bench points, second chance points, points in the paint. There's only one thing that stands out on the Kansas State. They hit 3 more threes in the game. And it's kind of crazy when you see the box score and you think Kansas won, but Kansas State pulled it off. But congrats to them, man.
Yeah, yeah, Kansas, I mean, shot 2 of 9 from the three-point line, so that they need to get a lot better from the three-point line if they wanna win on the road. But like you said, there's just a couple minor things that kind of led, to a better box score for Kansas State and ultimately the victory in the end, 76-71. Quickly looking at the player stats here, one of our favorite names, Booty Cheeks, finishing with 15 points. Now they shot, as you kind of said, with the sloppiness, 5 of 14, 1 of 4 from the 3-point line. So we'd like to see Cheeks be a little bit more efficient there. But we did have a double double from none other than Bartlett, 10 points and 10 rebounds and 2 blocks. On Kansas's side, we had a double double at a day, who finished with 12 points and 12 rebounds, and McDrizzle finishing with 14 points, 1 rebound, and 2 assists. So I think Kansas will be fine, but I think this says a little bit more about Kansas State, and I think Kansas State might deserve a little bit more respect than some people might be given here.
Oh, for sure. They definitely should move in the top 10
Oh yeah,
after that win.
oh yeah, that was a big time win from them. But um, next, we can move into our top plays. I know we won't really have a segment here for top plays, but Ace, did you have anything you wanted to say about this segment specifically?
Yeah, man. I love the top plays, but I only got 3 clips this week. If you guys want to see the top plays, please send them to me. I really don't want to hunt down 30 clips myself as I work a crazy work schedule. Just if you want to see the top plays, please send them my way. That's
Yes.
all I'm going to say.
Yes, send them to Ace, send them to me if you want to. Just get them in our hands so that way that we can figure it out and hopefully continue with our top plays here. But that's all we'll say about that. And then we will now move into our players of the week, which we had some big time performances. So we're definitely not going to be able to cover all of them. But just wanted to highlight a few here. We had Providence's Melanishan finishing with 25 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. So a big time performance from him to get Providence the win. Steve Miller, my player of the week, 23
Mm.
points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, and 1 steal. So, like I said, my player of the week, big time out of him. Creighton, you have Malcolm Streets in the loss. Wanted to cover Creighton because I really liked what they did on the road at Chapel Hill with 23 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks. You have Leon Sandcastle, Houston, who Ace is going to have to figure out how to stop. This just a double-double machine, finishing with 20 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. And then to end it out, I have LSU White finishing with a big time double double, 15 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and contributing in the blocks with 5. Ace, what do you think about this list? Is there anyone that you might substitute out or anyone else that you wanted to kind of highlight here that wasn't included?
No, I think that's pretty correct. Cease Miller, I can't say it enough. That's probably the craziest stat line I've seen, especially from a point guard. You don't see 23 well, you definitely see 23 points, but 8 rebounds?
Yeah,
You don't see that. In
no.
12 assists? Like, he was scoring and dishing his teammates. Like, outstanding.
Yeah, Cease Miller deserves all the credit and gets our player of the week. But in our last segment here, Ace, is there any? I know we're kind of going to be publishing this during week 4, but is there any games that you're looking ahead to at week 4 that may not have been played yet that you wanted to cover here quickly before we get out of here?
I'll go, day to day as we're recording this on a Tuesday. I'd say tonight, I'm really looking forward to Michigan State, Texas.
Yes.
Both teams got their first win last week, so g we get to see which team goes on a run here. For Wednesday, Arizona, Memphis. Arizona looking really impressive here. Memphis gets, I'm pretty sure, their first win last week. So I'm anxious to see, does Arizona keep that hot streak or does Memphis start to go on a run? Um, Thursday.
One thing I will say about Wednesday is we do have our Tobacco Hill rivalry between North Carolina and Duke. I
Hmm.
don't think Duke's going to be able to pull off the victory. I think North Carolina will handle them pretty well, but just want to make that note there. Big time rivalry on Wednesday.
Also, watch out for Wednesday. Illinois, Kansas State. That could be a really good one too. But
All three of them. That
Thursday,
Wednesday should be a heck of a night.
yeah, it should. Um, all all 3 games should be pretty good. Thursday, I hate to be a homer, but Houston, Oklahoma State, Houston, you never sleep on Houston.
No.
They can beat anyone at any time. X-Face, one of the best coaches in this league, and I think that's gonna be a crazy game over there. For Friday, mm,
Kentucky Auburn,
Kentucky,
I would probably say.
yeah, Kentucky, Auburn. Um, I don't think Auburn has enough firepower to go against Kentucky, but I think that's gonna be the best game of that night.
Yeah, listen, man, Cease Miller. Any do not doubt Cease Miller. I don't
No.
think Auburn has the depth per se that Kentucky may have, but Auburn is at home, and Cease Miller is coming off a massive Player of the Week, so you just never know. But yeah, should be another great slate of games here, CSBA for Week 4. Again, apologies that this is coming out later than it typically is, but we should be back on track now, and we'll have our Week 4 recap recorded on Sunday like we typically do and have that released. So, with that being said, looking forward to the remaining of week 4, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the league chat and in the Twitch streams. But for Ace, I'm Lion United, and we will see you at the end of week 3, beginning of week 4.